Coming up on today's episode of Building the Colossal Cave, walls, tables, floors, vacuum cleaners, Windows updates, Star Trek, wood, and more.
Everything you see in the cave today is with thanks to the patrons and PCBWay.com who are sponsoring today's episode. A lot of what you see today is not cheap, and it's thanks to their help in sponsoring the channel and episodes like this that we can afford to get them in. PCBWay.com is the website to go to for PCB design services, short or large run prints of your own, single, multi-layer. It doesn't matter how complex, they've got your needs covered. And there's a wonderful community projects section where you can look up projects covering a whole range of retro computers ready to print with the touch of a button. PCBWay.com, thank you very much for your support. And now let's get stuck in. Hello cave dwellers, welcome to the cave, the Colossal Cave, as I continue my mission 1 week at a time, month by month, to build the ultimate YouTube studio, the ultimate exhibition space for retro computers, gaming and consoles. And so that when lockdowns are over here in the UK, I can throw those doors wide open and some of you can come and visit and enjoy the space with me. So each month I allow myself 1 week to progress the work here on top of doing my usual videos. I've just finished filming the CDTV episode, which is why there's such a mess behind me, as well as recording some tea break episodes. So this is that week, this week, and I'm going to show you everything that I've been up to, and we'll pick up exactly where we left off last month, which was with building the wall. You can see that the cladding is up, and I'll give you a full tour. It goes all the way around the corner there, this wall. Let's take a look at it on the floor. Now the cladding that I've put up here is from an old factory. This is not fake upcycled wood. This is the real thing. I have no idea how old this wood is. It must be, I don't know, it could be 100 years old. No idea whatsoever. Now, as a result, yes, it looks beautiful. It's got all of this old paint, these lovely blues and oranges on there, which I think are just stunning. But on the flip side, they're pretty beaten up. There are bits missing off the edges. There are holes in them. So these are never gonna line up perfectly straight. We're always gonna get gaps between them. And I think we just have to accept that and then try and mitigate that once it's up on the wall. So I laid all the wood out on the floor to try and get an idea of how I wanted it to go together. And then got to work with screwing all of those boards onto our stud wall. And it went up pretty quickly with just a little bit of work needed around the edges to fill the gaps. And here is the end result, looking pretty good, I think. The colors really pop when you get the settings right on the camera and you get the lighting right. It makes for a really great backdrop. The eagle-eyed among you will see some of the stud wall coming through where the boards don't line up, where there's holes in them. And I am going to go around and try and touch them up. Or in the worst case scenarios, we'll put some pictures up just to cover the worst sins. But I think, yes, it's not perfect, but the overall effect I really like. This will become the backdrop for the lab. So we'll get some workbenches here for the soldering iron, for the heat guns, for all of that good stuff. And the ESD safe desk here to do the work on and film with this in the backdrop. So I'm looking forward to doing that. One thing I'm worried about with this is the paint is so gorgeous. I don't want it to rub off. I don't want it to lose that look over time. So I'm considering, I've got here some decorator's varnish, and this is described as clear dead flat, because the last thing I want to do is varnish it and make it all shiny and have all the light reflect off of it and undoubtedly bounce off the top of my head as a result, as all light seems to be attracted to this shiny head. I don't want the light to bounce off of it, so this tells me it's a clear dead flat varnish that's not going to do that. And we'll test it on another piece of wall over there, because over here we had a bit of exposed plasterboard, so I used the offcuts and the last of the wood to clad that, and I'm really happy with the result. It's far better than exposed plasterboard. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a tester on that bit over there, and by the end of the episode it will be dry. We'll have a look, we'll see if it looks any good. And if we're happy with it, then I'll do the rest of this wall. Now the wall doesn't end here, it goes around the corner. Let me just take the camera around here to show you. And what you've got around here is a big old pile of boxes. We'll come on to those shortly, but also a reading area. This is the library. This is a place to come and relax, to take some old magazines off the shelf. Or my book, Retro Tea Breaks Volume 1, available in store now. And I want to extend this with more bookshelves all the way around here with all the old computer magazines. Some nice lighting. I've got a bit of orange lighting bouncing off the wall there to make that look nice. And ideally, what I want to get here is a cocktail cabinet, an arcade cocktail cabinet that you can put your cup on, or you can sit down and play with friends with chairs on the other side as well. And someone has reached out to me on Twitter and offered me an old cocktail cabinet that will need the trash to treasure treatment. So if that comes off, that would be fantastic to be able to do a trash to treasure. Really looking forward to getting hold of that if we can. So this is the library, and you'll notice there's a big gap there which goes through to a space that belongs to the landlord. And I haven't rented this space, but we'll just take a peek through there. This is a mirror image of the studio space. So it's a big old space. And I've got a dream for this space. You've got to dream big sometimes. That's how we got to this position in the first place. Currently, everything I'm doing is funded by the official cave dwellers, the patrons, and we've got just over 1,000 patrons. And each month I take a little bit of, well, quite a lot actually, of what they give. Above and beyond what I need to pay my bills, I budget everything else to do up this place until we can turn it into what I've got in my head, the vision of the cave. So what if I told you, if we hit 2,000 patrons, I know it's a long way off, it may never happen, but if we could do that, what if we could put a bookshelf here, you pull a book, it swings open, and it reveals the secret arcade. I know, it's a big dream, but I'd love to have the original neon arcade carpets, the lights, rows and rows of 80s and 90s upright arcade cabinets, maybe some air hockey, some other things in there. And as part of your experience of coming to the cave, you could enjoy all of the micros, all of the consoles, and then the secret arcade. And if you want to be one of those people who helps to make that happen, who is helping to make this happen, then head over to patreon.com/RMC Retro, where you can sign up to be a member and to help out. Now, why are all these boxes all over the floor? Let me show you the next thing that I had to get up to, and it was a huge effort this week. Took a couple of days work and a hired van. Here is the van, my Starship Enterprise. It's a Sprinter van. And bearing in mind the old cave, the storage was 3 floors up, and this is 3 floors up. There was a lot of physical labor to get this done. I was hammered by the end of it, absolutely destroyed, but we got it done, and this is the result. Yes, a huge pile of boxes all need sorting through. And the reason I'm not doing that right now is because I don't want to just chuck them all in the storeroom, rubbish and all, because there's a lot of stuff that I've just hoarded and I need to sort through. So I want to properly inventory it and take my time in doing that. And also the display space over here, which you can just catch the corner. We're going to look at that next. The exhibition space, I want to have the trash to treasure machines set up so you can just walk in and use them. So I want to pull out the bits, pull out all the spares that go with them and set them up nicely and not just throw them in a cupboard. So this is something I'm going to have to tackle over the next few weeks and before the next episode, but we'll get there. It's not very exciting. It's a pile of boxes, but there's some good stuff in there that we need to take out, we need to look after, and we need to put on display. Now, onto the good stuff. You saw me making tables last time for the exhibition space. We've now got flooring, we've got workbenches, we've got all sorts going on here. So let me bring the camera around here and show you all the hard work that's been going on over here. So this is the area I referred to as the exhibition space. It has its own floor now to set itself apart. Not quite finished because I'm just waiting for the edge strips to come along. It's not going to have that rough edge. So it's completely black with just some little red accents, and that's to match some other things, which I'll show you shortly. But this is where the magic happens. This is where those tables we made last month are all going to be on display. But this is where the showcase machines are going to be exhibited. We'll rotate them. We'll have different themes, different months for when you come and visit. We'll have the real stars of the show on these machines to walk up to and use, and a drinks table in the middle to put your drinks on. Now the floor itself is a vinyl. It's pretty flexible. It's the kind of stuff that you would put on your garage floor. And the reason for that is partly because the floor isn't actually flat. There's a bit of a undulation on it. And if I tried to use anything solid, then we'd find ourselves in some trouble. And also I wanted to keep the costs down. I was looking at some other options. I've got a sample here. If you come over to the table, I'll show you what I've got in this box. Now in here is a sample of some flooring that's used for exhibition spaces, temporary exhibition spaces mainly. There's a textured type and a smooth type. And the reason I was looking into this is because it has channels underneath through which to run all your electrical cabling or your network cabling. And I thought that would be quite nice. But actually, if you listen to it, quite tappy. Because of that hollowness, it just makes the whole floor, I think if we did this much floor, I think it would sound really cheap to walk on. So I did away with that idea and I went for the rubberized floor that we went with in the end. And quite how we get the cables to the tables, we'll just have to work out in the longer term. I'm thinking, because we haven't got as many tables as I thought, I'm thinking we could get away with some nice spiral coloured electrical cables coming down to each table. We'll figure that out when we get to it, as we will with the lighting and all of that stuff at the end. I want to get the space set up properly first, and then we'll come back to cabling. The laying of the floor was fairly straightforward. It's just a case of throwing it down and clicking it together and bashing it with some mallets, and that soon very quickly came together with a couple of apologies to the people working in the office below me. We got there and we got it done. And I'm pretty happy with it. And then I laid out the tables roughly where I think they'll go. Again, this is all subject to change according to how it all looks at the end. On the subject of tables, I've got 7 of them made now. I just made lots more using the same process that you saw last month, but there's a little added extra. Take a look at this. As a finishing touch in the center of each table now, I have a 3D printed 2-tone our logo cap. I think that's a really nice finishing touch. It's got some sparkle in it. I don't know if you'll catch that on the camera, but it's just got a real subtle sparkle to it in the 3D print. And then I've varnished over the top of it. It's just a nice finishing touch, I think. And thank you so much to Richard, the same Richard who helped me build the stud wall. He came up with these and printed them himself. He loves a bit of 3D printing, does Richard. So he's done a great job with them. So thank you. And of course, that's why I wanted a bit of an accent on the edge. I didn't want to go full red edges on this floor, just a little accent as a nod to the center of the tables. And maybe if we have red electrical cables coming down, all those little things add up to give us a bit of continuity in the space and make it look nice. These things don't happen by accident. On the back wall, last month, I talked about turning this wall into a shop front to recreate an 80s or a 90s computer game shop front. And the more I thought about it, yes, I love the idea and I think it would look amazing, but the more I think it's a bad use of space. If we had this as an exterior shop front, first of all, it would have to come forward and eat up some of the space. Second of all, you would have a couple of shop windows in there which could hold some items, and those items would look nice. I've got a bit of scaffolding that's fallen over here. Those items would look nice, but it's not really a good use of storage space, which is what I'm trying to achieve here. So I think actually I'm going to have to flip it, and we're going to have to be inside the shop. So what we'll have here is rows and rows of shelving, I think, so that we can get all the big box games on, all the handhelds, because we've now got, thanks to a chap called Mark, who appeared in a retro road trip a long time ago. He's going to store all of his tabletop games here and allow you to use them, over 100 of them, those classic. Actually, here's a clip from that road trip. Let me show you. This is part of his collection, and they'll all be here for you to come, take off a shelf, put on a table and play. So that's going to be a really welcome addition to the collection. So if you imagine you're inside a shop rather than outside a shop front, you've got all of those to choose from, making sure you pick up the correct power adapter and don't blow them up. That's going to be a nightmare and a half, how we figure out that. And then workbenches. Also big box games, by the way, lots of big box games on their shelves. And then workbenches, which is what I've started over here. And I think what we'll do is we'll have the workbenches come all the way around with the shelves above them, enough room for CRT monitors too. And that will give us 10, maybe more additional machines to the ones on the tables. So it really opens up a lot of space to have computers set up on and to easily walk up and use them. So that's the idea. That's why I haven't done this shop front yet. And I need to budget for the cladding. If we're going to have a lot of shelving there, I think we can just go for some plain wood planks, maybe some old scaffold board planks to clad this. Shelves in front, a bit of lighting, and then the machines set up. So I think that's the route we're going to go down. The shop front will have to wait, as lovely an idea as it is. And to carry through that look on the theme of technology, sitting on old industrial things like these upcycled tables, and the fact that we're in an 18th century mill. For the workbenches, I've gone for upcycled scaffold boards, which I've had pre-treated and waxed. They're nice and flat. I've learnt my lesson. As lovely as these tables are, they are so time consuming to make. So the thought of having to prepare all of the wood for such a huge workbench, this is 5 meters here in itself, it was just too much. I just thought I'll never get that done. So I got someone else to have the boards pre-treated for me. And look, this wood is just lovely, lovely thick bits of board for the workbenches. And they sit on top of this scaffold frame. The scaffold frame I've built myself. Here it is coming together. I didn't, again, having learnt from the time it takes to build these tables, I didn't quite like the idea of having to angle grind scaffold poles here. Not least because of the amount of mess that just sanding the tables made. Imagine the mess and the noise of angle grinding scaffold poles in here. So I had them pre-cut and I just put them together to make this nice solid table base. It's as much as I could afford to budget for this month, but the idea is fully to carry on with exactly the same theme all the way around here using the scaffold base. So I think that's a good look. Got lots of electrical sockets along here, so we can plug in lots of systems. I need to trim the wood, but I don't want to do any of that until I've got the whole frame in and I'm just 100% satisfied with the layout. I don't want to start chopping things and then change my mind later. So we'll get it all in and then we'll cut the ends off and we'll get it looking all nice. But I think you'll agree it's a lovely looking thing. The wood is just resting on top at the moment. The front and the back I need to bind together, get them nice and solid and flat, and then secure them to the table base. There will be about a 5 centimetre overhang at the front so that you haven't got the scaffold all sort of prominent out the front and ready to smack your knees on. A 10 centimetre overhang at the back so I can cut the wood around these steel beams and get it nice and flush to the wall, or as flush as you can to a rough wall like this. And then room for a CRT and then the uplighters to really make a feature of this lovely wall. To give you a sense of the depth of it, I've got this Commodore PET here with keyboard, and there's ample space to sit here and use the system quite comfortably. And then above the CRT, I've got some more thinner scaffold boards, which will sit above it nicely, and we'll get some big box games all the way along the wall. Imagine how lovely that's going to look with the RGB lighting against that stone wall. All your favourite software titles up above it. Oh, the nostalgia is going to be strong here, I guarantee it. It's going to look great. And I think it's going to be a really nice, inviting space to come and use. I just had one problem with the table. Of all the parts that I ordered, the end bracket, the clamp there was too small, so I'm just waiting for another clamp so I can put that bottom supporting pole in there securely and then put the end caps on, and then that's done. It's just a case of trimming the wood, securing the wood, working out the placement, and then we'll screw it into the floor to make it nice and secure. Really happy with these workbenches. And really happy on the whole with how the exhibition space is coming together. Sometimes it feels like, you know, 1 step forward and 2 steps back when you uncover something, or you just realize how much of a task, how much you've bitten off and how much is to be done. But we are making progress slowly, and hopefully if you continue watching these month on month, you'll see this all come together and turn into the dream space. There was one other thing that I had to do in the studio today. I'll just show you that. Something that's become a real problem when I'm trying to film is this one skylight in particular. The whole room's full of skylights, but there's one that's right above the desk where I film in the studio. And yes, of course, the light bounces off my head, as all light tries to do. And this was a particularly bad one. About 3 p.m, that's when the sun comes around and really just hits you like a laser beam. So I got this blackout blind, which took me far too long than I'm willing to admit to fit. But with a bit of patience, I got it in there eventually, and that's that problem solved. Well, the last thing we need to check before we wrap it up for today is the wall that I varnished with that dead flat varnish. It's dried now. There's a window there, hence why this side looks a lot lighter than this side. It hasn't darkened it up. But most importantly, it hasn't made it shiny. It is dead flat as promised on the tin. So I'm happy to apply that to the whole wall over in the main studio area. That's a good result. And so I think that's a pretty good place to wrap it up. Thank you for taking the time to watch. I've got to wait another 3 or 4 weeks before I can dedicate another week of my time to doing this, and I can't wait. I get so impatient for that week to come around because I really do enjoy doing this. We're only 2 episodes in to this series. Imagine what we'll be doing in 5, 6, 7 episodes time. This place is going to make huge progress. So I've got to be patient, and then I'll just have to play with my extendable feather duster. A real necessity in a place with ceilings this high, I've learnt. I'll have to make do with that. And I hope you'll join me in the next episode. And a special thank you to the official cave dwellers, without whom none of this would be possible. And as I mentioned earlier, I don't like to talk about my Patreon too much, and I don't like to try and promote it too much in my other videos, but this is one of those videos where you can see exactly what the result of that support is, because the more support I get, the more I invest back into this channel for you. And well, I hope you can see it for yourself, and I hope if you're not already supporting the channel, you might consider going to patreon.com/RMCretro and chuck in a tip in the hat to help with all of this. Just imagine if we can get that secret arcade going in a couple of years' time. Oh, it would be amazing. Anyway, back to the grindstone. Thank you for watching, and take care, everyone. Bye-bye.